better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romancing the Podcast. Ooh, ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, ah, I'll have what she's having.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm Todd Schlosser. And this week, Paige made us watch
Head Over
Heels.
I have to apologize in advance as well because somebody posted this in the Facebook group. I was like, oh my God, that movie is bonkers. We have to watch it. I looked, there were streaming options, and then by the time we recommended it, they were all gone. There was no streaming.
My theory is that by the time you recommended it, Freddie Prinze Jr. realized it was streaming somewhere and demanded it be taken down.
He looks good in this movie.
He looks good. That's about it.
I feel like it's not a problem that millions of people can't watch this.
No. Anyway, we all had to buy DVD copies on
Yes.
Amazon, and today was a waiting game to see when we would all get our DVD copies, and everyone got one except for me. I had to find a way to not quite legally watch this online. And I literally got to the end of the movie and Jake walks in and he's like, your DVD came. And I was just like, great.
Fantastic. So here's what I suggest. I suggest you sign yours, Paige. You mail it to us. We'll sign ours and mail it to you. And then we raffle these motherfuckers off. Because
Oh, that'd be so fun.
I feel like people need to experience these movies. And why not try and win your signed copy? Just join the Facebook group. We'll put out details on how to get it.
I feel like we should sign a corner and then we have the fans ship it to each other and each of them sign it.
Like Flat Stanley. But like after you have to watch it and then sign it and then pass it
It'll
on.
be the sisterhood of the traveling pants, but the bad movie that is head over heels.
I was thinking more like The Ring.
You're just infecting everyone with the movie. Well, I infected both of you, so there's that.
Yeah.
Well, I have had this conversation before.
That's what Mikey said after his first threesome. Well, I've infected both of you.
And they're like, with what? And I was like, love.
Oh!
Yeah, I feel like this joke has gone, I don't know, like maybe 45 seconds too far.
No cuts. No cuts.
No cuts?
Sometimes I realize when I'm talking to you guys that we need someone who will stop yes-ending us, or we're going to end up robbing a bank as a bit.
Oh my God, let's do it. We got to talk about this movie.
Yes.
We got to talk about
All
this
right,
movie.
so Paige, clearly this was not your first time with this movie. When was the first time you saw it?
Absolutely not. Oh God, I think I was college, I would say.
All right, so walk me through what happened and why you went to see it.
I didn't go to see it. Somebody infected me with this movie as I have infected you.
Yes.
It truly is like The Ring. And I remember somebody being like, oh my God, I love this movie so much. You have to watch it. You have to watch it. You have to watch it. And I don't even remember who.
Okay, did they love it like...
No, I definitely think it was ironic love. I think it's one of those things where like, they were like, Paige will appreciate how insane this is.
Yes.
And that's how I got infected with this movie. And it's one of those things where I feel like every once in a while I run into people who love this movie and it's just their secret, like, isn't this movie fucking nuts? How did this get made? This was made in like 2001. Freddie Prinze Jr. was like so fucking famous when this was out. Like, how did this make it through the cracks? What happened? And then also, there is a subversive humor to this movie that I love. And I'm just like, who let this script get through? Like, this movie is dark and bonkers in a way that I love because it's as crazy as The Lucky One or Night Before Christmas, but it's also sarcastic and mean. This movie leans so far into weird, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. This is a great movie you should ask everyone if they've seen. And if they like it because it's so bad, it's impossible not to watch every frame of. These are people worth spending time with.
I don't think anyone legitimately loves this movie. I think everyone loves this movie, ironically. I think it's impossible to watch it for
I agree.
serious.
This movie is objectively terrible, but I fucking loved it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's like cheesy sci-fi as a romantic comedy.
It's so bad. But then there are sections of the movie that I'm like, this movie knows how bad it is, and it's just leaning into it.
Well, you see, but like America back then was just like, especially Hollywood in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had some good movies, but they also had some like, we know you stupid fucks will love this. we didn't even try. Here, just take this.
Here's what I think is crazy about this movie. It abandons the rom-comness of it almost immediate. Like, when she sees what she thinks she sees, this is no longer a normal rom-com.
No,
This is
it's a murder mystery.
Yeah, why the fuck did anybody write this movie?
Well, it's okay. It abandons the murder mystery plot for the third act where it goes action movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think is the weakest part. when he threw those knives in that lobby.
He is not cut out to be an action hero.
Is he not an FBI agent armed with a gun?
No. He's armed with knives like every FBI agent, Mikey. You idiot. Why would they have guns?
No, he does have a gun because he pulls a gun just a scene or two later. He chooses knives. He has guns, chooses knives.
Gun by occupation, knives by hobby. Let's do this.
Yeah. Two guys were about to try to shoot him, and he throws knives at him like Steven Seagal.
He chose a non-lethal option. Get off his dick about it, Mikey.
First off, a knife is a lethal option.
Not the way he throws it, Mikey. Unless you're a fly on the wall. He only wants to stick your clothing to walls.
Oh, my God.
I love
This
this
movie
movie
is
so much.
terrible.
I have a real question for you two. Is this movie worse than Remember Me?
No. This is way more watchable than
Yes,
Remember Me.
absolutely. I'll say this, though. This movie didn't have the opportunity to have Freddie Prinze Jr. die in 9/11 because it happened a few months before 9/11.
So we can fairly say, as an FBI agent, he didn't do his job very well.
Yes. Here's the thing with Remember Me. I feel bad for making anyone watch Remember Me.
And so should you, Mikey.
This movie,
I don't want the title of The True Ring to be taken from me.
this movie, I'm like, you gotta watch it. Like,
Yeah.
let me show you the good shit.
Paige, it is like a lean in real close and be like, oh, you gotta watch this movie, dog.
It's so terrible. Like, you're right. It's just so terrible. It comes back from the other end.
Guys, speaking of coming back from the other end, Freddie Prinze Jr. destroys a toilet in this movie.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
in like a very
insane.
realistic sounding diarrhea scene.
That is not very realistic, Mikey. Unless you're pooping out your internal organs, no one does it for that
He
long.
was sick. No one poops with a tie thrown over their shoulder unless they don't feel good.
I remembered that scene, and then in listening to it this time, I was just like, this is way more extreme than I remember. He should go to a hospital.
Yes, he should be in a hospital on liquids because he's lost all of it through his porthole.
But, I mean, scenes like that are what make me, like, spot other people on the street and just see in their eyes that they can appreciate a movie of this caliber, and then just pull them in close and just be like, I'm gonna have red beans for dinner. And make that, and then we share it.
Holy shit, man. We definitely got to get into this movie, though, because we got a lot to talk about in pretty much every scene.
We do. We open on a shot of Iowa for no reason. It takes about 2 seconds, and we never come back to it.
That's my favorite part. It opens on a farm town in Iowa.
In Iowa.
That we fully never see again. They establish a scene and immediately rip us away from it. I was like, wow, okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah, she's like, no, now I'm in New York where all men lie and I have the worst judgment, and it's the classic early 2000s, late 90s rom-com voiceover. And she takes us through her, like, history with dudes where, like, her grade school boyfriend left her for somebody with boobs. Her high school boyfriend left her for another dude. And now she restores paintings for the Mets.
Okay, so that's a big jump. We have two boyfriends in grade school, and then, like, I'm a recluse in, like, adulthood, which is...
Also, I just realized that I said restores paintings for the Mets, but it's the Met Museum.
Yeah, I was
not
about to
the
say
Mets
something.
sports
I
team.
wanted so badly to be like, what about the Yankees? Does no one restores paintings for the Yankees?
The Yankees like that modern trash pop art, okay?
No, the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
No cuts, Paige.
No cuts. She works with her best friend, who is what I would describe as art lesbian.
Yeah, she's 4 non-blondes lesbian, yes.
Exactly. And then 3 old women who just fight with each other and say hilarious shit.
Oh, you mean the 3 old fates?
Yes, they are purely there for comedic relief and nothing else. And I love it.
And they're nailing it.
Are they?
They're nailing it like they're nailing that old guy who runs the department.
At least one of them is boning that dude.
Thank you, Paige.
How do you think the paintings get messed up?
You think they're boning on the paintings?
Age?
Yeah, age of,
Waggy.
yeah. Their advanced age, you know what I'm saying?
Anyway, their boss comes in and is like, Amanda, I need your help. I've got this painting. It's bad. And it's Titian's Bacchanal and it's in very bad shape. And there's one whole face in it that's completely lost. And so she's going to try and repair it. And as he's talking to her, one of the old ladies walks by and slaps his butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Amanda gets weak in the knees over the painting. And when people ask her about it, she's like, well, it's because these people were in love and stayed in love till the day they died. And they're like, no,
No, they
these
didn't.
aren't real people. Yeah, these aren't real people. If they were, she'd be pregnant in 2 years and he'd be banging a barmaid. And she basically is like, maybe that's why I like art. And they're like, cool, but speaking of real life, aren't you supposed to go home to your boyfriend? And she's like, oh my God, right. So she goes home.
Oh, yeah. And her boyfriend has given that model the deadwood.
Yeah. I thought he was
Nailed
going to
it.
be in this movie. No.
Well, he wasn't that famous at this point. Yeah.
No, yeah, Tiffany cuts.
Tiffany Oliphant.
Anyway, so it's Timothy Oliphant. The model is literally on top of him. Like,
Yes.
he's inside it. And she's
Yeah.
like, this is not what it looks like. And she's like, well, it kind of looks like you're having sex with a model in our bed. Like, what am I missing?
But she doesn't really have any emotion at all. She doesn't even really seem surprised and or upset, which I thought was bonkers.
Where she's just like, again?
Well, yeah, so I was like, oh, this movie is terrible. And then I realized that this movie is terrible, but like in the best way. Like, I thought that would be the most like egregious, crazy thing that happened.
No.
My favorite was when you started watching this movie and you texted me, you're like, Paige, this movie is terrible.
Yeah.
And then literally seconds later, you were like, this movie is amazing.
Actually, it was that scene where Timothy Oliphant was cheating. That's when I said it's terrible. Because it is just terrible at that point, which is, it's like 7 minutes in. Like, it's so fast that all that happens. And then, like, a few scenes later, when Hamlet starts, like, straight up humping her, I was like, oh, no, this stuff is awesome. This is an
This
awesome
movie slaps.
movie. Yeah.
We cut to, she's over at her friend's house from work, and she's basically talking through her relationship drama. And her friend is like, well, have you ever felt weak in the knees over a guy? And she's like, no. And her friend is clearly trying to get her like, yeah, so there's only one bed here. So, like,
Yeah.
maybe try not guys. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
hey. And I think Amanda kind of quickly sees that that's what's happening. And so she's like, I'm going to go find an apartment tomorrow, I think.
Well, I don't think it's just that. I think it's also that her friend grabs her tit and says, is this cool?
Right. She's groping her as they sleep. Yes. We cut to the next day where she is at a coffee shop and she finds an ad for a $500 apartment, which is insane in New York, as we have covered so many times.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be insane back in 2001. Like, even with
Yes.
the inflation, that's still insanely cheap.
So she goes to the building, the doorman's asleep, the elevator opens, and out runs a giant Great Dane, and we will find out that this is the dog, Hamlet.
Yeah.
Hamlet tackles her and immediately starts making the Beast of Two Backs.
He's hitting a doggy style. Yeah.
Yeah, he is hitting a doggy style.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. rescues her from the dog, and she goes weak in the knees.
Yeah, she gets weak in the knees like she did with the painting, right?
Yeah, I thought it was real dumb.
It's a real weird plot device in this movie for sure.
Oh, but when it comes back at the end, I cried.
Oh, I did not cry at this movie.
I didn't cry either. Please, this movie's ridiculous.
I did relate to the fact that there was like an uncontrollable dog that was embarrassing to take in public.
No joke. I said to Natalie, I was like, I didn't realize Mikey's dog had an agent, but at least he got some decent work.
Yeah, she doesn't hump, but she definitely knocks people down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of what happens here is that, like, even after he kind of gets the dog off of her and she stands back up, the dog is like pushing her into him. It's like a whole thing. thing. And then the doorman wakes up as all this is happening and just goes, he's a horny bastard, isn't he? And she just goes, I don't know, I just met him. And he's like, I was talking about the dog.
And she goes, oh, of course. That's what I thought you meant. Dude, the Freudian slip she's about to make, I lost it.
Well, my favorite is Freddie Prinze Jr.'s line right before where he's like, can I get you anything like a Kleenex or a cigarette?
Yeah.
Because of the dog. And at this point, she's like, no, I'm fine. It was very nice to meet you and your huge dong. And realizes the gaffe she's just made. And the doorman just goes, I've seen bigger.
Yeah, I love that. My favorite part of that bit is that she says dong twice.
Yeah.
And then she like collects herself. And then she goes, I mean, your huge dick.
I mean, dog. Okay. Yeah, all right. And then she just kind of gets into the elevator and leaves.
Oh my God. Those are like gaffes on the level at which if you had done them, you would pray to God you would never see that person again.
Yeah, that's the one where you just want to like Alex Mack your way into the floor and float away.
I get that reference.
Not here. She gets upstairs to the apartment and it is amazing. And this is one of the only movies I think that justifies people having amazing things with no money or jobs. It's the one thing this movie actually kind of does that makes sense. Where they establish that even though she's an art restorer, which is like the most romantic comedy job ever.
Oh, and Sigourney Weaver in Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think it was weird that she was an art restorer. I just thought it was weird that she was an art restorer for a baseball team, Paige.
Yeah. That's the weird part. But no, I like that she's an art restorer, but they establish that she like doesn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's kind of commensurate with what her actual salary would be. And this amazing apartment that we're about to see, we find out it's paid for by the modeling agency.
Yeah.
So like these girls can't afford it. Like I kind of appreciated that every rich, crazy thing we see in this movie is somebody else is paying for it because we'd never be able to afford it. So she goes to the apartment and they show her the actual apartment, which is fully a closet. And she's like, this is a closet. And they're like, no, closets don't have windows. Besides, this is the closet. And it's this like huge, amazing, magical closet.
It's not like a walk-in closet, although you can walk in it. Like, it's huge.
Yeah, it is the library in Beauty and the Beast for shoes.
Right.
Like, it's just like racks of clothes and shoes. And they ask her, because they're very insistent on like, yeah, it's cool as long as you pay the rent.
In cash.
I liked this. We're like, I have a job. Oh, you have a job?
Yeah.
What do you do? Oh, I work. You work? Did I mention you're in the lead for the apartment?
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Amanda. She works. It's great. But this is where we get the first story from the Dark Farm, which is, so it's 4 different models. One of them is Candy from Australia, Candy with an I. And she says, oh, Amanda, my dad backed over my pet dingo, Amanda. We were finding pieces of her everywhere. Like,
And she's laughing about how her pet got run over by a tractor, which I can only assume was like a lawnmower type thing because they were finding pieces of her around the farm or whatever.
like a combine or something
Yeah, I
like
think it was
that.
a combine. Yeah. I love her stories throughout the film, this Australian
It's
chick.
so funny. I mean, my favorite is to watch her in the background.
Yes.
Because she is in various stages of healing from surgeries throughout this movie. And more than once, she takes like a header into a wall or a column. And it's just right in the back of everybody else. And they don't even stop to look at it.
No.
And it's really funny.
And she commits to the physicality of her jokes.
So much.
She doesn't have the best lines, but man, she commits. And I respect the shit out of that, man.
She is hilarious in this movie. But this is where they ask her, do you smoke? And she's like, no. And they're like, good. We're the last 4 non-smoking models in New York. That's why we live here. And she's just like, oh God, you guys are models. Like, my boyfriend just left me for a model. And they're like, oh, don't envy us. We're struggling. Like, the apartment is free, but we're renting that extra closet, bedroom, for spending money.
Yeah. I do like when she mentions that her boyfriend just cheated on her with a model. One of the models like starts to slink away and she's like, oh, it wasn't one of you.
And she goes, oh, good. We couldn't go through that again. Like, so it has happened before.
Yeah.
But so they basically are like, welcome. You're our new roommate. Great. So we cut to the next day where she's coming home with boxes and there are men at the door. And one of them just turns to her and just says, I love you. And she kind of looks at him, and then you hear the guy in line behind him to say, that was good English.
Yeah.
And she walks into the apartment where she walks into them all getting ready to go out, where they're just like,
They're all topless.
they're all topless, trading tops, trading shirts, trading bras, who cares? And she's like, hey, there's 2 guys out there in the hallway. And they're like, only 2. And they go back to look. And now it's like a crowd of people.
Yeah.
And this is the first introduction into what they refer to as the waiting list, which is just men who wait in line to spend money on them, which is absurd, but also great.
It is pretty funny. I mean, they would say take them on dates, but even at the dates, they're not even around them. It's
They're
ridiculous.
not even around them.
Yeah.
And they're kind of looping Amanda in on it, where they're just like, do you see anything you like? Just pick one. And they're like, she's like, you're just picking guys based on like money and gifts. And they're just like, yeah.
What are we supposed to do? Pick them on their charm or whatever?
No, they said personality.
Yeah.
And they ask her, do you want to go out with us? And she's like, oh, I can't afford to go out with you. And they're just like, we don't pay. We're models. Like, what's wrong
Like,
with
what are you
Like,
talking about?
who pays for things? So they ask her, they're like, so what do you do again? Because they never actually asked her what her job was before.
Right.
And she starts explaining, and they just walk away while she's talking to them, where they're just like, fun, cool, about that, bye. And they just peace out.
Yeah.
So she walks over to the couch where Candy with an eye is sitting and has a facial flex in and has bandages on her ears.
Wait, you said that like a facial flex is a real thing.
It is a real thing.
What?
Yeah, it was very popular at this time.
What is it?
You can still buy similar things. Like, it works your jaw and cheek muscles out to give you like the appearance of a better jaw and bone structure.
This sounds psychotic.
Yeah. They used to sell them in Sky Mall like crazy.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But so Candy says to her, you have a really symmetrical nose. And she asks Candy, why aren't you going out with us? And she says, oh, I can't go out in public yet. I had to have a surgery. My earlobes were uneven.
Yeah.
And she tells her that some of the really great faces, beautiful faces, weren't symmetrical. And Candy's just like, no. Like, okay, sure. But as she's talking to Candy, she looks out the window and realizes that their apartment window looks directly into Freddie Prinze Jr.'s apartment window.
Yes.
And Candy informs her that that's Jim Winston. He's a fashion executive. We all know him. And as they're watching, he's kind of looking through his fish tank. And Candy just says, his head isn't normally that big. It's just the water that makes it look that big. I know a lot about water. I'm from Australia.
It's an island.
And she's like, so you want him? And she's just like, what are you talking about? She's like, I could see the look in your eye. I used to catch my Uncle Pete looking at me like that. And you're just like,
No, Candy.
That's terrible.
no, Candy. And she says, I can find out where he works if you want. And Amanda just says, I don't care. Don't worry about it. So we cut to the next day, and he runs into her again on the sidewalk, or I should say Hamlet does. And he just says like, oh, Hamlet must really like you. And she's like, why? Does he not tackle everyone else? And he's like, no, he does.
He only drools on the one he likes, though.
Yeah. So he helps her up. She's got the weak knees again.
Yes.
He asks her if he can buy her another cup of coffee because she spilled hers as Hamlet knocked her over.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, thanks, Jim. And he's like, wait, how'd you know my name? And she has to do the cover of like, what? Of course I know your name. You told it to me. You're Jim. That's Hamlet. I'm Amanda. And he's like, no, I would have remembered if I knew your name. And she was just like, well, you didn't. So I've got the runs.
But he says, oh my God. Yeah, I forgot you said that. Oh my God, Paige.
Oh, yeah.
I've got the runs.
I've got the runs. I mean, I got to
Well,
run.
maybe you should lay off the coffee then if you got the runs.
Well, I think that coffee shop probably is not making good coffee because everyone who drinks there has the runs.
That's true. Judging by later in the film, yes.
But Paige, Freddie Prinze Jr. says something like, I would remember if you had told me your name was Amanda. Amanda's such a beautiful, unique name or something like that.
And
I was like,
I know like 14 Amandas.
yeah, like it's not a bad name, but it's certainly not like a beautiful, unique name.
Yeah, it's about as unique as Jim.
Yeah.
That's like if I came up to you and I was like, my name's Michael, and they're like, that's
Michael, is that exotic?
Wow.
Ooh. But I mean, that's not his real name. His real name's something unique and beautiful like Bob.
Yeah, Melanie Snooter.
Yeah, like Todd.
Oh, well, that's just hurtful. Although I will say this, Todd, not a great name.
That's why there's no famous Todds.
Tony Todd is famous. How dare you, the Candyman?
Todd that's his last name.
That's his last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't count.
No, that doesn't count. What are you talking about?
So confused as to why that wouldn't count.
Because
It's
not
a last name.
It's not the same name.
Well, when he and I get married and I take his last name, I'll be the first double Todd famous person.
Todd.
Tony Todd, I'm coming for you.
You got to go by Todd Squared.
I will, Paige. My business card will just be Todd with a little 2 above the last
Todd
D.
with a 2. I'm just thinking that like your wedding invitation should just say like Tony Toddy.
We are going to use our formal Todd. Yeah. Of course.
Formal
Wow.
Of course, it's going to be
The
Tony
Queen's
Toddy.
Todd.
Yeah.
Would your stripper name be like Hot Toddy?
That should definitely be your drag name.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, last time I did drag, I wore a Whore Virgin t-shirt and I went as whore or virgin. I'm not even joking. Like, I have pictures.
I've seen those pictures.
Yes,
I
you
have
have.
them on my phone.
If you can afford it, guys, Venmo Paige.
We don't have a Patreon yet, but we do have the power of suggestion.
I do love that instead of a Patreon, we just like blackmail each other through like embarrassing photos we've shown.
Just send DVDs around the country.
We're gonna have a Remember Me meetup at the 9/11 memorial.
Oh God, no!
Actually,
No!
you know what? You know what's pretty wild though is this movie actually is a lot like Remember Me because those apartments were in the Twin Towers.
Oh, no!
No cuts.
No. If we're gonna have a meetup anywhere, it's at the Christmas Carnival or it's in Colorado, where we will then walk as a group to Louisiana. Never follow a meetup to a second location.
Well, I want to go there and light a candle next to a picture of Robert Patterson.
I want to live in a world where you learn that his last name is Pattinson, not Patterson.
He says it every time, Paige.
I know. So we cut to her out at dinner with the models, and they're kind of like, why didn't you have coffee with him? Like, he's cute. What?
Yeah.
And she says, because that's what she would normally do. And it always ends up badly. She tells a story about being ditched in Hawaii.
Also, can we talk about the main character not having any chemistry and hating you just hate her the whole time?
I don't hate her. I just think that she's not a real person. This sounds terrible.
Yes, it does.
I don't feel like she's a real person until she becomes a full-blown stalker. And then I'm like, bitch, if cell phones had been around, this would be a different movie and it would be very real.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't like her.
this shocks me because she's a nondescript blonde woman, and usually that's your thing.
That's like your go-to, Mikey.
You know what, Mikey?
Yeah.
I think maybe what it is, and the reason that we can just kind of laugh at this movie is there's like not much for either of us in this movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. This is more of a Todd movie where
What the fuck does that mean?
we hate him.
I don't get me wrong. Do I like watching Freddie Prinze Jr. work out? Absolutely. Is it the best? No.
Freddie Prinze Jr. is like if you put a Ken doll in the Indian of cupboard and then like made him do push-ups.
That's a very strange reference.
It's super weird.
I would have been more into it if he had just been like shuffling cards with eyeliner. No.
If you put him in the cupboard, but then he disappeared.
if instead of just knocking that woman unconscious, he had dramatically sawed her in half.
No, okay. Let me sum up this movie. It's like if you were on a ride at an amusement park that like did scenes like a movie, because all of these people are robots that look cool, but like there's like no realistic thing about them. So it's like basically just robots performing a movie for us.
But don't you love it, though? It's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
I do love it. I also love that Mikey said, let me sum up this movie for you when no one asked him to do that.
We all watched it, Mikey. We know what happened.
Everyone at home asked me to. They emailed me.
Anyway, so they're all at dinner, and this is where we reveal that they make all the men that take them on a date sit at a different table away from them.
They're like all sitting at the bar, just waiting for them to ask them to pay for it, I guess.
Right. There's a joke about the new Calvin Klein model, how she looks 14, but she's 12, but they gave her millions of dollars. And then at the end of the dinner, they just hold up the receipt and the dudes flock over to try and get it to pay for their dinner.
Yes. Which, okay, can I just say this real quick? The most wildly offensive thing is said at this dinner, and it's like supposed to be a joke, but I was blown away by it.
What is it?
It was when they're talking about one of the girls getting into Stanford, and she was like, "Oh, you got into Stanford? Did you go?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Why didn't you go? I look like this. I don't need Stanford."
Yes.
I was like,
I don't need-
"Oh
who
my
needs
God.
Stanford?"
This is so insane."
We actually talked about an ex-coworker like that because she was really pretty, but she like came in and she was like, "Oh my God, I got this townhouse in this really nice area of town." And she's like, "My landlord was like, oh, I love dogs. Let me knock off hundreds of dollars on your rent just because of how much I love dogs." Wasn't that really nice of him? And we were like,
Yeah.
No, that's not why that happened.
that's not why that happened. She's
What you
like,
need to do is be checking your apartment for cameras every night.
yeah, that's what I told her. And she's like, "That's not true." And I was like, "Does he live in the other side of the townhouse, like the other duplex?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You need to run."
Yeah, triple check for cameras at that
Yeah.
point.
Also, don't be like any of the guys in this scene. I felt so bad for these guys.
But at the same time, I'm like, you are waiting outside a doorway with a bunch of other men to spend money on women that have expressed no interest in you.
Yeah.
The fault is yours. Like,
Oh, yeah, I'll agree with that. Like, they're putting themselves in that position. I'm just saying, don't be like these dudes. It's super depressing.
yeah.
It is super depressing.
But we cut back to the apartment where she's then watching through the windows at Freddie Prinze Jr.'s apartment.
Yes.
And she's looking for a flaw. And they're like, well, why do you think he has a flaw? And she's like, because I'm attracted to him.
I miss the 2000s when you could look like Freddie Prinze Jr. and it's considered that you're flawless.
I mean, I think he looks good in this movie for Freddie Prinze Jr.
Sure. Oh,
Wow.
okay. That's fair.
Wow.
But compare how like sort of skinny and scrawny Freddie Prinze Jr. is in this movie, and then how sexy as hell Ryan Reynolds is in the Amityville Horror.
I mean, apples to oranges, man.
That's what I'm saying.
He works out in this movie and he looks decent doing it.
Yeah, he does like 20 pull-ups. That's a lot.
Okay, Mikey, there's a thing called acting. He clearly did not do 26 pull-ups.
He probably did more because it was probably multiple takes.
Oh my
That's
God.
true. It is probably multiple takes. Mikey is right.
Yes!
I guarantee you Mikey is not right. They set up that camera, he did 3 pull-ups, and then they shot the other side of the scene.
How many pull-ups can you do, Todd?
If 3 was the real number, I'd be happy.
Todd, now that I'm noticing, are you just jealous because like Freddie Prinze is like the cleaned up, really attractive version of you?
What?
Look at these faces side by side. You got like Freddie
No.
Prinze, and then you got Freddie Prinze after like 7 years of like living on the street.
Hard living.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either, but I honestly appreciate a good joke.
I don't see it, but I'm also the person that shows you the same looking dudes over and over again and is like, what about this one?
Yeah, you're like,
And I'm like, how many times are you going to make us look at Chris Angel?
Not Chris Angel.
Not today.
Not any day, ever. I am not attracted to Chris Angel.
She's like, is this your card?
you're like, if a guy only has 7 rings on his finger, that's not attractive enough for
On
me.
one finger? 7 rings on one finger?
And half of them have to be skulls.
Ooh, did you get this out of one of those like vending machines for 25 cents in the back of a pizza parlor?
No, Paige. I threw it down and broke it open because who has that kind of money?
This is not representative of my type in the slightest.
Slightest of hands, you mean?
I'm going to pull that rabbit out of your head, girl.
Ew! Oh,
She pulls out her rabbit vibrator.
I
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's so dumb.
know. Remind me to keep you at over 6 feet even after the pandemic.
I only need 5.5.
Well, we tried to record tonight, guys. I'll see you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I'm sorry, Todd. This is
Oh, it's a miracle they let you near schools.
No
Okay,
cuts!
we get a montage of them trying to find a flaw in Freddie Prinze Jr. where like he's got a baby, but no, it turns out to be like a relative or a friend's baby.
Oh,
There's-
what about those Catholic schoolgirl prostitutes, Paige? That's a pretty big flaw.
Excuse you, Catholic schoolgirl sex workers.
You know what? I apologize.
Yes. They turns out they're just selling candy bars. But my favorite is that she claims that they're props, like they're bringing everything. And then she just says, those little whores are good.
Yeah. I love that line so much. It's so bonkers. This movie's so insane, guys. You have to see it and then make your friends watch it.
Then we get a little montage of the working out and the pull-ups. And this is where she's like, well, maybe he's gay. Like, maybe that's the thing that we're missing. And one of the other models just says, no, he's wearing boxers and he has no framed photos of his mother. And I was just like, I thought back through and I was like, oh, those are strong indicators. Like, oh.
So if I had tidy whities and a framed picture of my mom.
You'd be the hockey boyfriend from 13 going on 30.
He wasn't gay, though. He was great. You leave him alone.
Todd, I won't.
I'm coming after you, hockey guy.
Yeah, the only thing that would make him better is if he tried to live 13 days in an ice cube.
The only thing keeping me and him apart is the 2 seconds it's going to take for me to tap that ass. So they're getting dressed for a party that night. And they're kind of just getting dressed to go out, but they see that he's setting up for a party across the way. And at this point, Candy, with an eye, is having her eyes done and just has bandages taped around her eyes.
Yeah, and she's running into fucking everything.
They just have left her loose in this apartment with no eyes.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty amazing.
It's great. So they decide that they're going to crash his party. And she's like, we can't. What if we get kicked out? And they're like, who would kick models out of a party? Like, what are you talking about?
He also sort of works in the modeling industry, right? Like, that's what they say, at least. That's his cover. So, yeah, they're probably going to be models there anyway.
Right. This is also where we find out that she's been drawing him.
Yes.
And she's like, well, he's got a Renaissance structure to his face.
Which, no, he doesn't.
She is creepy at AF.
Yes. Yes, she is, Mikey.
Yeah.
She is creepy AF.
Like we said, Mikey, yeah, she's your type.
No. No. You know why she's not my type?
Coming off the top rope.
Yeah, I was going to say because she's into me. Watching me and drawing me as I sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the weirdest thing about her, fucking run. Run. But anyway, she says he probably only dates, and she just kind of leaves it open, assuming that they're going to be like models, and they just say promiscuous women, and she says no, models. And so they give her a makeover, and we get like a montage of them like picking outfits, doing her makeup and everything.
It sounds like the Spice Girl. It's not, but it sounds like Spice Girls is playing.
She definitely comes out looking like a Spice Girl.
Yes, she does. I also loved that in this scene, the girl who has like the bandages on her eyes, Candy, is like behind them, like running around dancing and stuff. It's like, what are you even doing here?
If you watch her at multiple points in this montage, she runs in the opposite direction of everybody else.
She commits, and I really respect the hell out of that, man.
I think this is the scene where they play the Go-Go's, which is like the title track. They get her all done up in model garb. They get into the elevator. They're going over to the party, and they tell her that she's supposed to clench her butt cheeks, but then also they decide to, quote, turn on the headlights, which
that's funny.
Basically, it's just them making their nipples stand out.
In my experience, nipples always stand out.
Can I say this about this scene, though? Because the girl who says that, let's turn on the headlights or whatever, when she does it and they get off the elevator, if you watch her face, it looks like the actress was like, well, that was the most degrading thing I've ever done in my life.
Turning her nipples like a turkey timer.
Yeah, look at her face. I'm not even joking. She looks like she's like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? It is amazing. I'm not even joking. Everyone go back and watch that scene and pause it. It's amazing.
Do girls do that?
I can't imagine why you would do that.
Ice cubes. Some people use ice cubes.
The only time I heard of that was in a book written by
in My Dad Wrote a Porno.
Yes! I was going to say in a book written by a man, an old man.
Rocky Flintstone?
Yeah.
There was a thing, and God, I do not remember where I learned this, but they do it sometimes for like porn shoots and stuff where they will ice somebody's nipples because when it's cold, they stand out. And so that is what I've heard more than just the pinching your tits.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I'm sure it works.
So they immediately abandon her at this party, and she kind of walks through. It's full of models, and she sees him kind of making the rounds and kind of schmoozing, and she's really kind of grossed out by him because he seems super bro-y and awful.
This is many people's first impression of me.
Well, Mikey, I mean, yeah, I could see that.
I love the awkward silence when a joke hits like real truth.
Yeah.
And you're both like, yeah, okay, thanks.
She even overhears him talking to someone as they come into the party about like, I'll take this girl now and this girl later or something like that. It's like really
samples.
douchey. Yeah, that's what it was.
Samples. And what we find out later is he's referring to the dresses that they're wearing.
Yes.
But we don't know that at this point in the movie.
Right.
So she decides that she's going to leave because she's just like, no thanks.
Yeah, I'm not into this anymore.
So she goes to leave, but the elevator closes, so she takes the stairs, and she finds him actually sitting outside on the stairs, and she trips and falls, breaking her neck. The end of the movie is really tragic.
Everything else is a dream.
Yeah.
It's a Jacob staircase situation. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's Jacob's fire escape ladder. So he calls out to her, and she's like, oh, I didn't recognize you without the dog. And they kind of start talking, and he's basically like, oh, you're a model? And he's almost like disappointed. And she's like, no, I'm not a model. And he basically tells her that I kind of hate these parties. I kind of just have to like schmooze with people. What do you actually do? They kind of have this cute talk. I mean, it's not enough for me to be like, you seem like less of a douche. Like, it's, I don't know. In watching it this time, I was just like, they don't have a ton of chemistry.
No, they do not.
They do not. But somebody basically comes out to bring him back to the party, and she says, oh, you should go back to the party. And he says, you are the party.
Yeah.
And they kind of get into this like flirty, but she has to go. He has to go back to the party, so she leaves. He does make a comment to her about his job being dangerous and then kind of walks it back.
Yeah.
And that's our first clue that he's not actually in the fashion industry, but
I do something like that when I talk about podcasting.
it's so dangerous.
You ever said something stupid and then a million people hate you online? It's dangerous out here in these streets.
Once a fucking week, man.
I know.
Once a week.
Paige, I know. I'm the one editing it like, oh, Paige is going to get in so much trouble.
So he comes down into the lobby.
He runs down into the lobby like an asthmatic with a heart condition.
Also, I think with his asthma condition being so bad, he wouldn't be an FBI agent.
No.
Yeah, I noticed that. I thought that was a little strange too. And he's like puffing on his inhaler, but he asks her out. They kiss.
Yeah.
They make plans for Saturday. She gets weak knees again. And then she comes back to the apartment and she's telling Candy all about it. Candy still has the eye patches on. And so she walks straight into a column in the middle of this apartment.
Yeah.
And kudos to that actress because she doesn't even try to break her fall with her hands.
And she falls for a good 20 seconds over the couch onto the coffee table. Like that's what I mean. Like she commits to everything she does.
It's so great.
She's by far the best
great.
actor in this movie.
Oh my God, yes.
I agree. She's more my type than the main character.
Because she can't see?
Because she has self-esteem
Yes.
that allows her to get multiple surgeries because she's not content with who she is.
You know, like a lot of those reasons.
So she comes home. She's telling Candy. Candy crashes around. And the other girls come home from the party and they're about to go out to something else. And so as they're kind of changing shoes or whatever they're doing, she looks through the window and sees that there is a woman in his house.
Yeah.
And it seems like they are close. And then he seemingly murders her.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he puts the blinds down, and then it looks like he hits her and then beats her with a bat and then drags the body away in the blinds.
The funniest part about this to me is that Candy, with an eye, says, "Did someone scream? Temporary blindness has improved my hearing," which is like not at all what has happened, but it makes me laugh every time.
It is very funny.
They can't find the body, but she calls the cops and it's full-blown Rear Window. They can't find any proof. No body, no crime.
That famous Bob Marley song.
Nobody, no crime. Nobody, no crime.
I did a music joke.
Oh my God, Mikey, yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Yay!
way.
Anyway, the police get to the apartment. They're trying to get stories from everybody. And the girls, the models, are like recounting the stories that they've made up about the things that they see.
Yes.
So the cops don't believe them, and they basically let Jim go. So,
Well, also, we find out later Jim's an undercover FBI agent. They probably
Right.
know what he's doing, or at least someone's like, don't worry about it. He's a badge or whatever. Yeah. Like when they revealed what he did for like what his actual job was, I was like, oh, now I know why he didn't get in trouble.
yeah. The models get home at 7 a.m. and they all kind of look out through the window, and he has a cleaning crew in his apartment. So Amanda goes to talk to the cops again, and again, they're like, nobody, no crime.
Nobody, no
crime. Nobody, no crime. Nailed it.
They also have not found the woman that it's supposed to be, though.
No.
So there's no body, but also she is missing.
Yeah.
So the models all come to visit her at work.
Can we talk about the Mets' like lack of security here?
Oh, so much. This is the first of twice when people just walk in.
I'm sorry, I don't know why, but the first of twice really made me laugh. No, I mean, yeah, they just walk into where these $1 million paintings are being restored. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
And one of the models is basically like, hey, I was talking to my shrink this morning about you, and she says you're projecting. I was talking about you because I talk too much about myself. So she just basically goes to her shrink and just gossips for like an hour or whatever, which honestly sounds great. If there's a therapist that can do that for me, yes.
I can do that. I'll do that. If you want to pay me money to talk shit about people, like I'm like your therapist.
That's sort of what the podcast is.
Yeah.
But I do like that her therapist is like, you talk too much about yourself.
Yeah. And Amanda gives this speech of like, I'm not going to go out with a murderer, but in doing so, she has this whole like, she's listing out all the reasons why she loves him. And I'm like, you've met him twice. Like, I know you've been watching through the windows, but that's like me watching Henry Cavill build a gaming computer on Instagram. I don't actually know him.
Well,
I just
yeah.
know how he looks in a mustache and a tank top, and that's enough for me.
Mike, I swear to God, Paige, if you stand up and start crying, I'm gonna be very upset. Because that's what happens in this scene.
Yeah, she starts crying. And
Oh my god, because she's just everyone in this movie is just like, oh, it's like if aliens made a movie, they're like, I think this is what a human rom-com will be.
oh, then they did a good job because she goes into this thing of like, we're starting a relationship on lying, and the models are like, all men lie. Investigate him while you date him. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, like we do.
Yeah. And the old ladies chime in, and one of them says, you have to trust him or else you'll never have a good relationship, and you'll just grow old and be some lady making her friends come to her cat's lame-ass birthday or showing pictures of her cat's lame-ass birthday.
Yeah.
And then one of the other old women says, you can say what you want about me, tramp, but don't you dare say anything about T-Cat. And then she swings and slaps the back of the old lady's head.
Yeah.
Her
Yes.
teeth go flying across the painting.
Yep.
Amanda catches them. And then the third old lady, who seemingly has not heard anything that has gone on, just says, I'm gonna have red beans for dinner.
Amanda stops those dentures like you're playing air hockey and you're about to
Yeah.
smack the fuck out of that puck. When she stopped the dentures, I laughed out like I guffawed out loud. It was so funny.
Well, this is one of my favorite scenes in this movie. There are a few things in this movie that they do really well, and it's stuff like this where it's just like abstract, crazy comedy where you've got like Candy with her bandages and her stories from the dark farm. You've got these old ladies throwing teeth everywhere. And on top of it is just this really boring, badly done rom-com.
Yes.
But, like, beneath the surface, it's so funny that you're just like, I have to love this movie because you can say what you want about this movie, but don't you say anything about T-Cat.
I feel like this movie was so close to being not another teen movie as like an adult rom-com.
Oh my God, but somebody should write that.
Yes.
I'd watch it.
Yes. So she decides that she's going to go on a date, but she's also going to keep investigating him. So they decide that they are going to go to the super of his building and try to get access to his apartment.
Oh, was that the super?
That's the super,
I
yeah.
thought it was like a maintenance guy.
It might have been a maintenance guy. I think typically that would be your super. I mean, it depends because he has like an office is the only reason. I
True.
thought.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so they trade him a dress in order to be let into the apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Which I also love that this movie is just like, yeah, he wants a dress, fair trade. And then later in the movie, they bring him dresses willingly, just like, you'll love this, we're going to go. You know, like...
Well, no, they bring him dresses for favors. Like, I do love the way they set this up, though, because he's like, I'll do it if you give me that dress. Like, he wants to see her naked or whatever. But no, it smash cuts to him dancing in her dress. But a few sizes bigger. Let's be honest. That dress on her would not have fit him.
There's no way. It's definitely a different dress.
Yeah.
But.
Yes, but I really like how they addressed the scene.
Oh, wow. Mikey, that's the joke you wrote, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, God. So they climb the stairs because the elevator's broken. They get into the apartment and they're trying to find evidence, but the girls are not very good at it. And they have one of the other models across the street as the lookout, but she is on another phone call with what sounds like a sex hotline.
Yeah, it does sound like that, Paige. We don't get confirmation of that, but that's what I assume.
But that's what it sounds like. But they find out that he's going to be in a meeting all day, and she's supposed to be the lookout waiting for a phone call. They find one of his shirts that appears to have a blood stain on it, and they have Candy take photos with it, but they're photographing evidence, and they're just like, make love to the shirt. Now hate it. You hate the shirt. And then they find that there's also a yellow stain on it, so it's probably just ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
They do find a box of cheese daggers, which we find out later are his throwing knives. And they find it just in time to hear that he is coming up the stairs to the apartment. And the way they find out is that the girl across the street throws a kiwi and it hits the window.
Yeah, like you do. You know, when you're trying to alarm your friends, you throw a kiwi at them.
Right. And she's trying to get them to call her on the phone and, like, you know, get the message across to them. And this is where Candy is like, no props and charades, no props and no clothes. Uncle Pete's rule.
Oh, God.
And then the other model comes up beside her and just says, no more stories from the dark farm, please.
Yeah.
And they find out he's in the hallway, so they scatter. Amanda hides under his desk, and the other three girls hide in the shower.
Yeah.
So we overhear a phone call where he's talking about how he had to eat pierogies again, but he should have a meeting with the chairman soon. He walks into the bathroom, sits down on the toilet, and then he takes an extreme wet dump.
Yeah, we find out that he is having a violent reaction to pierogies.
Apparently, he has Crohn's disease.
Oh, wow. Look. Sometimes you have a rough poop, man. Everybody has it.
That's
Been there.
Yes, I've had rough dumps in my life. This is not a rough dump. This is a medical condition.
Yeah, no, if he gets up from the toilet bowl, there's going to be intestines in it.
Yeah.
The sounds he makes pooping are the sounds that Vincent D'Onofrio makes as the bug in Men in Black 1. It is not okay. It's bad.
Oh, the only way that this movie makes sense is that if it takes place in the Derek Zoolander extended universe.
Honestly, in my mind, it does.
Right.
In my mind, this is Lady Zoolander.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I want less of the main character and more of the models.
I want all models and murder mystery.
Yes, but no love story.
Just a heads up, I already have 30 pages written of Mrs. Zoolander, and it's amazing.
Orange mocha frappuccino light. So he finishes up and leaves, and they can finally escape the shower. And they just say, if he hadn't washed his hands, this investigation would be over. Which part of me is just like, he should also see a doctor, though, maybe.
Yeah, he should see someone about what just came out of him.
Right. We cut back to Amanda's at work restoring the painting. And she's talking about him, and he's like, I don't know. He doesn't seem like a psycho killer. There's nothing that we found. Maybe I'm missing something. And then he just shows up.
Which is a red flag for sure.
Yeah, he's like, I hope I didn't scare you. And then she introduces her friend Lisa. She's like, she's a black belt. And he's like, oh, me too. And basically asks about what she's working on. He recognizes the painting.
Because of course he does.
Yeah, right, sure. And he basically is like, hey, I'm sorry if I scared you. It's just me, not some psycho killer. But the way he delivers that line is crazy.
Yeah.
He gives her a kiss on the cheek and gives her flowers and leaves. And she's kind of just like pining after him as he leaves. And then her friend Lisa is just like, so did the police ever find that woman or her body? And her face just falls.
Yeah. Like, yeah, thanks for reminding me that we think he might be a murderer. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So they continue to stalk him. She drags some of the models on the subway, and they follow him as he like directs a photo shoot, and he's loading a bunch of really kind of ugly dresses onto a truck.
Yeah.
And as they're running away from it, Candy gets caught in a dress. So they grab it and shove it in their purse and keep following him.
Oh, wait. And it's one of
And-
the diamond dresses, too.
Yes.
So they give
Yeah.
that diamond dress to the super. That dude is super rich right now.
I mean, if he realizes what he has, yeah. So as they're running, we find out that someone from the mob is watching them.
Yeah.
And they've identified Amanda, and they basically say, let's make sure we don't have a Megan O'Brien on our hands. Megan O'Brien's the girl that got killed. So she gives the super the dress in exchange for keys to his storage space, and she's about to open it when he shows up and grabs a large body-sized duffel bag from the storage space. So she follows him and calls the girls on the way, except we find out that it's not a body, it's bats and balls because he coaches a little league team.
Aww.
So she decides at this point that yes, she is going to go out with him. But as she's getting ready for the date in the next day or two, the old man who's been watching her as she's kind of stalking him shows up at her house, and he claims to be an art dealer to see her about some work. And she notices that it's a Russian painting and there are holes in it. And he says, yeah, for mice. And she says, oh, they're very neat mice, but they're clearly bullet holes.
Yeah, they're like perfect little circles. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're cute. Perfect little circles.
And he says, you've got a nice view. And she says, well, yeah, if you're into that sort of thing. And he's literally just like lifting weights in the other room.
Yeah, Freddie Prinze is. Yeah. Yeah, he's like working out.
Yeah. And she's like, we keep the blinds closed. And
Clearly.
we also find out that one of the other models has she'd been booked for a runway show the next day. So we cut to her show, and she overhears Freddie Prinze Jr. talking to one of the other fashion execs. And they're like, what happened to Megan? No one's seen her. And he's kind of evasive and doesn't give a clear answer.
Yeah.
So they go on their date. He orders one of everything so they can try all kinds of stuff.
I think it was just dessert, but yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, this whole thing is insane. Because I was like, did they eat a meal and then they ordered every dessert?
I think so.
I think that's what they're alluding to, although we do not see them eat an entree.
Right.
But yeah, I think they were done with their entree, and he was like, well, what do you want for dessert? And she goes, I don't know. It all looks good. And he goes, we'll take it all.
Which is such a good
Yes.
insanity move, first off.
Yeah.
And then second, they go to a different place, and I would be like, man, I'm really bloated.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, if I was on a date and it was going real well, and then she was like, why don't we eat every dessert they have? I'm like, oh, she clearly does not want to have sex, because there's no way I could perform with a stomach that full.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, I could have had sex with you, but like the cake was great, the tiramisu was good, the cheesecake was good, but then after the pie, like it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
This is my curse of being an amazing cook, is like for Valentine's Day or something, if I want to make something like awesome, I have to be like, we're gonna eat at like 3.
Yeah. Yes. Paige, why do you think I eat dinner so early?
I'm
There
a
you
big
go.
fan, like in relationships, to like sex before you go out. That way you can just like go all out at the restaurant and come back and go to sleep.
That's a pretty solid idea.
These are awesome pro tips, guys.
This is a great pro
Yeah.
tip. I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like when all the facade comes down and you're like, look, we need to have sex now because we're going to go to Texas State, Brazil, and I'm not turning that thing over to Red until I have the meat sweats. That's a relationship.
I don't know any of what you just said, but I am intrigued.
Texas Day Brazil is a Brazilian steakhouse.
And it's all you can eat meat, and then they just keep bringing you meat until you turn the green light into red. You do not take people you are romancing to an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Like when I go to Texas Day Brazil, I'm done for at least 36 hours.
This sounds great.
Like there is no more weekend.
Anyway, so they go on their date. They order one of every dessert, but he kind of cuts the date short because he has to answer a phone call from a pager because this movie is old. And we find out that the models have like followed them on the date. And my favorite is when they're like, these ugly people keep watching us, and we get a shot of the bar, and it's just like a bunch of old dudes.
Yeah.
Yes. Not like old, but like elderly old.
Like crusty
Yeah.
dudes that live at that bar.
Yeah.
and he goes to answer the phone call. The models hide in the bathroom, and over the phone, they hear him say, if they want a body, I'll give them a goddamn body. And as he's on the phone, someone comes in to snake the toilet in the stall next to them, and their toilet explodes and covers them in poop for no reason. This doesn't need to be in this movie.
Yeah,
It
like
is insane.
It's so weird. It's such a weird choice.
It is a strange choice. We cut to Freddie Prinze Jr. takes her to the aquarium.
Specifically, the beluga whales.
Yeah. They have to
like,
sit down while they look at it because they've all had 4 or 5 desserts.
just full of creme brulee.
We actually see them leave before the desserts come out, so
Yeah,
they
they
didn't have
don't
any
eat 'em.
desserts, which is
Yeah,
why
they
they have
ditched it.
sex this night.
Yeah, no one has that great of sex with 4 desserts.
Not in them, no.
Oh, God.
She'd be like, I can't have sex. I have too much in me already.
I'm full of cheese.
It just cuts to them throwing up on.
I mean, you get jostled enough with that much milk in you.
Yeah.
Like, all bets are off.
Nobody wants a milk burp in their face while sexing.
Oh, true. So they get back to his apartment, and he does that thing of like, are we moving too fast? And they're just like, nah. And so they bang it out. But
Yeah.
back at her apartment, the girls have all showered their shit shower off. They cancel the waiting list. And in their pajamas, they basically just watched through the windows because she forgot to close the blinds.
Yes, and they're eating pizza.
And they're eating pizza, which I will, if I lived in that house, 100%. We used to do the same thing in the sorority house when we knew guys were going to streak. And we would just like park the couches by the windows and be like, yeah, who's streaking tonight? All right, let's do it.
But like,
Yeah.
so you would watch is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Of course
Mikey,
I would.
would you watch?
These people have sex or people streaking?
In this movie, if you were in the apartment across from your roommate having sex with some dude, would you watch?
Not the whole time.
Well, I mean, eventually you'd come and go to sleep, but like, would you watch?
I mean, were there other roommates there, or is it like a creepy thing by myself?
It's all of them together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
okay.
a watch
If it-
party.
I don't want to be left out. There'd be too much FOMO.
That's the delineation for me, though. If it was all the roommates, yeah, I'm eating some pizza.
Yeah,
I'm watching.
that's
We're
true.
talking it up. But if it's just me, no.
Yeah,
I don't think
wouldn't
I could do it if it
alone.
was
I
just
wouldn't
me.
do it alone.
If it's just me, no, it's creepy. If it's every roommate, you have to because you're going to need to be able to keep up with all the conversations that are going to... I mean, that's going to go into the roommate lexicon.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. It's going to be part of the historical records. Yes.
And I'll tell you why. Because the rest of this movie, I was like, what the fuck did she do with her back during sex?
And it's a recurring question.
It
We
is.
never know.
And if we had been there watching, we would know. And I am just unwilling to let that sort of thing happen to me in real life. So if we're
Yes.
all watching it, I'm going to be there.
Yes. We cut to, they're on the couch and they're still kind of fooling around. And she's like, tell me all your secrets. He's like, I don't really have secrets. I mean, there's just one thing. And he picks up the daggers and reveals that they're throwing knives.
Yes.
Throws it all the way into the corner. And she's like, you throw like a girl. But then we get a close-up of the knife and he skewered a fly.
I love that reveal because it's like a slow pan in on the fly against the wall. It's so wild, man. So wild.
I think it was just a coincidence. He's like, oh, yes, I meant to do that.
So we cut to the next day where Amanda comes home and she realizes that she forgot to close the blinds. And all of the girls are just like, how'd you do that thing with your back? Which, again, we don't know what it is. But she also reveals that she's going away for the weekend with him. But because that one model kind of overheard him at the show,
Yeah.
she's like, we're worried about you. And so she asks the Russian model, can I borrow that one shirt again? And she just says, I don't know. I give to you, I never see again. Fine, dick it away. Which is, it's just ridiculous delivery that I love.
Yes.
And they basically all tell her they're worried about her and they're pretty sure that he killed somebody. And she's just like, he didn't. It's fine. So it's implied that she goes to work, then grabs her stuff, goes through the park to meet him, and then stops at a newsstand where she sees a news story about Megan's body being found.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he is in an elevator with the older gentleman, Mr. Halloran is what he called himself, because she was going to restore that painting for him. So Mr. Halloran and Jim are in the elevator, and they're discussing trading from Antwerp, and he's like, how does the money get back here? So it's implied that like he's either part of the mob or undercover with the mob. And so they come down into the lobby, and she confronts him with the news story and basically says, this is the woman I saw in your apartment. I saw you kill her. My apartment overlooks yours. Sorry, I didn't tell you before now. And now she realizes it's Mr. Halloran, and she's like, well, how do you two know each other? And then he pulls a gun. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. pulls 2 knives and throws them at cronies across the lobby, pinning them to the walls. And then he runs with Amanda and forces her into a car, and they peel off into the streets.
Yeah.
So this is what made me realize that, one, whoever directed this movie was terrible at directing action, and 2, Freddie Prinze criminally undercast in action roles.
Okay, who would you cast instead of Freddie Prinze?
Honestly, Bruce Willis. Just like John McClane in this role, I would love it.
But like young Bruce Willis, yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking
But,
of John McClane from the first one.
Okay, but like present day, who are we looking at?
Freddie Prinze III.
Hear me out, Jason Statham.
Yes.
Hell yeah, although he's as old as Bruce Willis. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, I would watch this.
He is not as old as Bruce Willis, but I would 100% watch him in this. But I would, the whole time I would just be wishing that he was playing his character from Spy.
Yes. What do you guys think about like a Paul Walker?
So he's dead. So probably not Paul Walker.
He's dead.
Yeah.
He would have
He is
killed
dead.
it in this role.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
my God. Mikey, no cuts.
Brutal. I mean, my brain keeps going to Henry Cavill, but I
Because
don't
it always
yeah,
does.
but that's like your default. Yeah.
or like a Chris Evans, which is the American Henry Cavill, and
I do think Chris Evans would do, if this was like written a little better as a comedy, perfect.
he would crush it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paige, I'm writing a screenplay right now that I'm just going to title Paige's Pornography because it is about think turn of the century, like think Sherlock Holmes, but instead of him being like a detective, he's a spy who was also a magician.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
yeah,
traveling
yeah, yeah.
Henry Cavill magician, turn of the century, using these magic sleight of hand tricks to like figure things out and escape these like precarious situations. And he uses his like life as a magician to like figure out his way through and like travel from city to city and all that stuff. That's his cover.
This sounds like shitty The Witcher.
It's like that. Do you know the name of Paige's favorite pornography?
They have
What is it?
names.
Houdini.
Houdini. Oh my God, I love it. Hell yeah.
Gross.
I checked out.
I was gonna say it needs more robots. Your version, Todd. I'm gonna need an extra dose of Terminator in it, but like.
All right. We could change it to the time period. I mean, I just like the idea that he was a magician that looked like Henry Cavill,
I mean, I'll watch Henry Cavill do anything. So.
which is why you have a mirror in your bedroom.
Anyway, so he's trying to explain to her in the car what's going on, and she's like, are you a cop? And he's like, kind of. And she's like, can I see your badge? And he's like, oh, I'm undercover. And she's like, oh, I'm undercover too. Do you want to see my badge? Oh, wait, I don't have one, because it's a ridiculous thing to say to somebody.
I did love that she responded that way. I thought that was pretty clever.
He pulls into an alley and lets her out. And this is where she's like, I saw you murder that woman. And he's like, no, she's alive. We staged that for this Russian mobster to see. I'm an FBI agent.
And so was she, and he found out about it, and that's why we had to stage her killing so I could prove that I wasn't an FBI agent. Yeah, he was watching from your side of the street on top of the roof or whatever.
Right. And he basically says that we've been trying to find out how they get the money and how they're kind of money laundering.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan to meet you and get involved right now. So he calls the FBI, lets them know that there's a meeting on a runway at 5. And as he's doing that, she's putting 2 and 2 together where she's like, wait, the guy whose painting I'm restoring, Halloran, the guy who just tried to shoot at them.
Right.
There were bullet holes in that painting. I'm privately restoring my painting. It's at my house. He knows where I live. So we cut to the apartment where the girls open the door for the wait list, and it's actually these Russian mob cronies who end up kidnapping the girls.
I love what they say, though. She's like, you're like 5 hours early for the wait list, and then he puts the gun in her face, and she goes, I guess you could jump the line. Except in a crazy Russian accent because she's Russian in this movie.
She is Russian in this movie.
Do you recognize that lady though?
She has been in a bunch of other stuff. This is the first thing I ever saw her in, but I know she's been in other stuff and I couldn't think of it as I was going.
Love Actually, the bar scene when he goes to
Yes.
America. She's one of the ladies that's
She is
in
one
that
of
scene.
those models.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. and Amanda show up right in time to see them kidnapping the girls. Hamlet comes out of nowhere and knocks Amanda over, which catches Freddie Prinze Jr. off guard. And so the Russians get the jump on them. And now they're all prisoners. They're all handcuffed to these racks of kind of ugly dresses.
At this point, I was just like, can we end this movie? Because this is ridiculous.
Oh, I don't know, man. I really loved this scene when he starts to give the female lead head through a dress.
Well, okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah, baby, take it slow, Paige. Take it slow.
Foreplay. So she's basically like, everything I know about you is a lie. And he's like, it's not, he's still trying to figure out the case. So he realizes, because he's talking about how they're importing these dresses from Antwerp, and they're like, well, nobody makes dresses in Antwerp. They just make diamonds. And so he tries to chew a rhinestone off the dress, which happens to be at like crotch height for Amanda.
Yeah, but it's really hard to find that rhinestone.
Yeah. I mean,
If it exists at all. Yeah.
I hear that rhinestone's a myth, Paige.
it's not a myth. It is not. I could draw you a map to where most rhinestones tend to be, but really communication is your best hope at finding a rhinestone.
It's the man in the boat. It's easy to find, guys. Just put a little time in. Mikey.
Or not. Just bail.
You don't deserve any of the sex you've ever had.
No man
You're not
does,
the first
Paige.
or the last person to tell me that.
Okay, so he gets a rhinestone off, realizes that it's an actual diamond, not a
Right.
rhinestone. So now he has kind of figured out the scheme. And so he's trying to talk the guy who's watching them into letting them go. And the Russian model distracts him and speaks to him in Russian long enough for Freddie Prinze Jr. to kick him and incapacitate him. And they steal his keys. They get out of the handcuffs. He grabs a sleeve off one of the dresses for evidence. And one of the other models rips a sleeve off and she just goes, tennis bracelet.
I love that part too.
So funny.
This movie's terrible. And there are some scenes where I'm like, oh man, they are really trying to not make a terrible movie. And then there are some scenes where I'm like, yes, they know how terrible this movie is and they're leaning into it. It's when they lean into it that I love it so much.
Yeah.
I honestly think the weakest parts of this movie are the love story because that's when they're not leaning into it.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
So they run outside into the street and pile into a waiting limousine, which turns out to be carrying a designer named Mr. Alfredo, who conveniently had all of his models cancel. And they're conveniently all
So
models.
stupid.
I love this part. I thought it was so funny.
And it's
I
a
was like,
bulletproof limo.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're being shot at.
Because he got it at the Jackie auction. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
They drive to Fashion Week, and Amanda and Freddie Prinze Jr. are kind of fighting because she's like, you lied to me the whole time. And he's kind of like, yeah, I was undercover. Like, I was trying to keep you safe, or whatever.
I do love that he's like, I didn't lie to you about anything important. And she's like, you lied to me about your name, what you do for a living, like
Yeah,
everything.
literally everything.
Yeah, like literally everything. Yeah.
Everything. So they get to Fashion Week and they lump Amanda in with the models, and the cronies are like searching for them. So she sits in the chair and lets them make her over, hoping it'll help them not recognize her. They start to walk down the runway, and Strukov, the Russian mob boss, also known as Mr. Halloran, is in the audience. And they start doing their walks down the runway. And as they're out on the runway, the cronies are on either side of backstage, just kind of waiting to grab them. And as they're doing that, Freddie Prinze Jr. incapacitates one of them with his inhaler by spraying his inhaler in their face.
Which I don't think that's how it works, right? Like,
No, it's not.
yeah, I didn't think so.
You could spray somebody in the face with an inhaler. It probably
Fair
wouldn't do much, but
I mean, yes, you could spray someone in the face. I mean, it wouldn't like do what
Yeah.
this does.
Yeah.
one of the models takes another one out with a shoe, and they suddenly are tackling the remaining crony on the stage. The stage starts to tip and fall. Amanda slips down the runway and falls onto the Russian mob boss's shoulders. and lifts her dress so that Freddie Prinze Jr. can punch him in the face through her legs.
He can find the rhinestone.
Yeah, he can find the rhinestone at that point. He knows where the rhinestone is. And we cut to like an E! News special where they're talking about like Alfredo, the designer, bringing a sense of theater to Fashion Week as if it was all intentional.
Yeah, and like it was a
funny.
huge hit because of this. Yeah.
Right. The FBI gives all the girls commendations because of their help. And they use it to like big dick that cop that didn't believe them earlier on.
Oh my God. Yeah. I do like that there's just some guy in a suit who walks up and says, "You're all getting a commendation from the FBI," and then walks away. We never see him again.
One, Freddie Prinze Jr. really didn't murder a person. And two, they probably told that officer, "Hey, we're undercover. Don't tell anybody."
Yeah. I don't think the movie thought that far ahead.
No.
Anyway, we also find out that Megan's alive and well. And Freddie Prinze Jr. pulls Amanda aside and is like, "I owe you an apology. I'm sorry I lied to you, but I'm not sorry I met you. And I'm hoping you could forgive me and we could start over." And she's just like, "I don't know you, though." Like, I have no idea who you are, really, which I think is a reasonable response.
I mean, yes, there's some truth to that, but she does know him. She doesn't know his name, although she does at this point know his name. But like,
how does she know that any of that's true, though?
Sure, but like, you would go on a date with him.
Maybe.
You showed him your crazy sex back move. You would have gone on a date with him after this happened, and you now know the truth. I feel like if you meet someone who's undercover FBI and you're mad about them because that you didn't know their real name, motherfucker, they were undercover.
Well, there's some ethical questions about why he's undercover having sex with someone not even related to his case.
Investigation?
Yeah.
Hey, man, FBI agents got to find love too, Mikey.
I mean, I do it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I know it's wrong.
Oh, my God.
So you're saying you should only have sex if you're undercover if it pertains to the case?
Usually, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's I think it's frowned upon then still, but like it would make more sense.
Yeah. Anyway, we think it's a couple weeks later. We don't officially know.
Yeah.
But she is painting and she's kind of finished painting his face in. And she's like, I kind of am thinking of rubbing it out because I don't want the constant reminder of him. And I can't find him. His phone is disconnected.
Right. It's a great tip. You should always rub it out if you're thinking about an ex.
Absolutely. Rub it out.
Get it out of your system.
Exactly, Mikey. And honestly, if you still think about him after you rub him out, then you're not ready to start dating again.
I was gonna say go for round 2, but sure.
No, I mean, but if you rub it out and they're out of your head, you just miss sex. If you rub it out and you still miss them, then
and you're crying. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, then you need to get over some things before you bring a third party into this.
True.
Well, the best lube is tears about thinking about your ex.
It's salty.
Yeah,
it's a bad idea.
It's not good lube.
So she can't find him, and this is also where we find out that Candy and her co-worker best friend are now in a relationship and have just come back from Palm Springs.
Yes.
So she realizes that she's not ready to give up on him, and she decides that she's going to try and look for him at the aquarium, but he's not there. And as she's walking home, she runs into Hamlet, and he basically says, "Hi, I just moved to this neighborhood." And it turns out that he found a building that faces hers with a great view. And he introduces himself again with his real name.
Can we just say that Hamlet is probably dead on that pile of trash cans he fell into because she sidestepped it?
That Foley is almost as good as the tea kettle against Rose Byrne's
I know.
head.
It's insane. We never see him again. That dog died from his injuries hours after falling into those trash cans.
No, bro, they never do. The dogs you want to pass away from your injuries, they never die.
Oh, Mikey. There are places that will take your dog, Mikey.
Yeah, hell.
So we find out that he got promoted to a desk job with the FBI.
Yes.
And so he takes her upstairs to his apartment, and they look out the window and they realize that it looks down onto her apartment.
Creepy. Yeah. Okay.
Creepy. And this is where he gets weak in the knees.
Oh,
and
my
they
God.
kiss. They close the blinds, and he says, "Hey, can you do that thing with your back?"
And that's the movie. All right. So having seen it, having talked about it, how do you guys feel?
I still love it.
Yes.
I still love it. I don't care.
I fully love this movie. I am looking forward to signing these copies and sending them out into the world and to see where they end up. Because I feel like everyone should watch this movie. I mean, knowing it's bad. Like, it's fully a very, very bad movie. But it's one of those movies that's so bad, you need to watch it.
Todd, I did not like this movie in like any sort of theatrical sense, but I did like this movie that it was real dumb.
Yeah, I mean, same.
Do you guys think that they're still together?
No. Mm-mm.
I don't know,
Absolutely
man.
Not.
If you find a girl that can do a back thing, you hold on to that.
What do we think the back thing is? I think that's
Oh.
a more important question than what do we think they're still together. What do you think she's doing with her back?
I think she can do like a 180 like The Exorcist.
Oh, God.
Oh, I don't want that. You're doing it doggy style. She turns all the way around to look
Yeah.
at you.
Ah!
So it's like all the good things about Missionary and all the good things about Todd.
She's like reverse cowgirl, but she can bend her head back and kiss you Spider-Man style.
No, no.
Gross.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think they're still together.
All right, cool.
Let's talk about fun facts.
Yeah, let's do some fun facts, Paige, because I want to know them.
So there's not a ton, especially there's not a lot of money facts on this one, aside from what we've already talked about.
Right.
But you might be interested to know that Amanda's character displays symptoms of something called Stendhal syndrome, which is a condition where seeing a beautiful piece of art or something particularly pleasing to the eye can cause symptoms of dizziness and fainting.
Wow. You looked up what it's called?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You might also be interested to know that Claire Danes was originally set to play the lead role.
Oh, man, she dodged a bullet.
And Monica Potter was originally auditioning for Candy with an I. But because Claire Danes dropped out, Monica Potter was moved into the role as Candy.
Nice.
And they cast somebody else.
I wonder why Claire Danes dropped out. I guess she must have finally read the script. But
When he throws that knife and it nails that fly, that shot sequence is taken nearly shot for shot from a movie called Guak Chen Ling Ling Chat from 1994,
What?
which is a kung fu film. Yeah.
wow. Okay.
I know.
That's bonkers.
Now, here's what's extra crazy is that Freddie Prinze Jr. was the first choice for the role because they had written the script for him.
Oh, of course. I mean, this makes perfect sense to me.
I have a review I want to read you of this movie, and remember this fun fact when I read it to you.
Amazing. Shalom Harlow, Sarah O'Hare, and Tomiko Fraser, who play three of the models, were real life models before being cast in the film. And Shalom Harlow has actually said that she lived in a model house much like this. The only one who technically wasn't a model is Ivana Milicevic, who is an actress who just happens to have a very striking face. And she is also in a movie called Catfight, which also includes the line, "I've got the runs, I mean, I've got to run."
How do you
And those are
find
your fun
these
facts.
fun facts? That is an insanely
Wow.
weird connection that you managed to find. That's amazing, Paige. So thank you
Thank
for those
you.
awesome fun facts. Do you guys want to talk some box office?
Yeah. Oh, I want to
Yeah.
hear that review first. but,
Okay,
like,
okay. This is a review of Head Over Heels. It was published. The review was published in 2002 by James Sanford of the time. He was at the Kalamazoo Gazette. I don't know if he's still there, but that's where the review was published. And it says, when your script calls for a suave, mysterious leading man and the best you can come up with is the bubble bright Freddie Prinze Jr., it's time to do some serious recasting.
Oh, damn.
And this
Dang.
script was written for him.
It was written for him, but like the three of us came up with better options.
Yeah.
That would have been,
It also seems like it was written by him. So, like, I mean,
I don't think it was written by him, but for him, I thought was really interesting. I was surprised to hear that.
it doesn't 100% seem like it was written by anybody. So let's talk some box office, though. So what do you think the production budget was for this movie? It's 2001. Remember that.
It's 2001. I'm going to put it at $2 million.
Okay.
$8.5 million.
Okay. Mikey is closer at $14 million.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, how much money did it make?
We'll talk about that in a second. That's about 21, almost $21 million today. That's how much this movie cost to
Oh,
make.
no.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
Yeah, all right. So this movie came out peak Valentine's Day time period, February 2nd, 2001. It was 7th at the box office its opening weekend. It was beat by movies such as the number 1 movie that weekend, The Wedding Planner.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2 was Valentine. Number 3, Cast Away. Number 4, the Julia Stiles vehicle, Save the Last Dance. Number 5, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Number 6 was Traffic. And number 7 was Head Over Heels.
Oh, this movie didn't make shit. This movie didn't make shit. There's so many other things to see.
Yeah.
God, those are all good movies too.
The only one of those I have not seen is Valentine, honestly. I've seen all and like almost all of the other ones. So what do you think it made its opening weekend? Let's do just that.
$400,000.
It was 7th, Paige. Come on, be fair.
$1 million.
Okay. Yeah, $1 million.
It made $4 million. In fact, I'll get specific.
Okay.
It was $4.8 million that it made in its opening weekend. So what do you think it went on to make domestically?
10.
It made I think 10. 10 sounds about right.
Yeah, so $10.3 million
Yeah.
total domestic. And I have seen, because where I look at these, it doesn't have like box office numbers and stuff like that for movies that are this old. But I did see on Wikipedia that it had made a total of $13.1 million. But I can't substantiate that anywhere that is based in anything other than just what people have said online. Like, Wikipedia is not the most reliable source for that information.
Right.
So
right.
it may have made up to $13.1 million, which is still $900,000 less than the production budget. It did not make money.
Well, it did make another $18 from us this week.
I bet Amazon's like, why is there such a run on Head Over Heels?
When we went to go buy this on Amazon, because we had to buy the DVDs, it said 4 in stock. And I was like,
mine said 6 in stock when I bought mine. So that means someone else bought it in between you and me.
and so I was just like, well, they're about to see 3 of these.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
You guys better scrounge up some more.
Seriously, Paige, sign your copy and send it to us, and we will sign it and then raffle it and give it away. That's your box office. So this week, Paige, you made us buy and watch Head Over Heels. Mikey, what are you making us watch next week?
I've decided we're going to do the movie Mannequin.
Yes.
All right. I don't think I've ever seen it. I know I've seen Mannequin too, because it was on the TV all the time when I was a kid. I'm not sure I've ever seen Mannequin.
I don't think I have. I think I've seen part of Mannequin. I don't know that I've seen it in full.
All right. So your homework for next week is to stand as still as possible in a department store while wine drunk and then watch Mannequin.
Perfect.
So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
I do.
Awesome. And if you guys want Mikey to read your review, leave us a 5-star review. Mikey, who's you going to read this week?
Wonder.a-while.
Well, Wonder.a-while, what do you got to say?
They say, the thing is, I love them.
I love these
don't
reviews.
know why listening to these insanely charismatic people recap movies I've seen at least 20 times is so entertaining, but it is. It's a 2-sentence review.
Oh, is that it?
If you like romantic movies, or if you just like to dunk on them, you'll like Romancing the Pod.
All right.
5 stars.
I like that. I like that review. Short, sweet, and to the point. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want Mikey to read your review, leave us a 5-star review. So, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show
Yes.
on Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at MRandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome everywhere. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I am Todd.
And you complete us.
To completion.
Toodle pip.
Laters, babies!
Can you do that thing with your back?
I knew you were going to say it, you son of a bitch. You gross motherfucker. I love it. Oh, my God.